Even in this physical world, right, scientists have proven, I think in 2012, that in order for energy to be turned into matter, which everybody holds, that's Einstein, and so on, you need what's called the Higgs boson. And that boson, that particle, whatever it is, it's called the Higgs field, can actually change energy into matter, substance. Right. Without that Higgs boson, it remains pure energy. You can almost look at it that's exactly what happened by the Mauritian. Before that, he was pure energy. Then he introduced the Zoyamah, and the equivalent of the Zoyamah is the Higgs boson, which now turns his energy field, whoever he was, into physical substance, into matter, you see, which is very interesting. In any case, this is what Adam did. He introduced his world, which is pure physicality, an incredibly fine level of physicality, like I mentioned, and he now became intermingled with matter, okay, because of Zoyamah, you see, which is bad news. Now, what does that mean? Because what the Zoyamah does is several ideas. The first idea is that Zoyamah blocks the aura of the spheres. Never happened before. The aura of the spheres was continuous. You could increase it, like I said, by the mitzvahs, depending on what you're commanded to do. But you could increase the aura. You couldn't diminish it, right? And you couldn't block it, but you could increase it. That's great, which is what Adam could do. The problem is, after Adam fell into the world of the Zoyamah, or the world of Satan, right? The Zoyamah, that pollution can block the aura of the spheres. You see, first time, never happened before. And that is bad news. But wait a minute. If you block the aura of spheres, right, you're blocking the aura of what? Of the spheres of any person. So if a person does an Avera, then whatever Avera he did blocks the aura of the sphere that corresponds to that Avera. Because just like there are 613 mitzvahs, each one is 613 Averas. The reverse is the Avera. So for the first time, could you imagine? You can block the aura of whatever that whatever that Avera corresponds to, which mitzvah, and where in the spheres it is. You see? Never happened before. So therefore, man, if he blocks his particular set of 10 spheres, right, can become severely injured and die. Because his spheres, which gives him chiyus, life, right? Without that, he's dead. Because he needs the spheres to constantly maintain who he is. You see? It's incredible, the repercussions. That is the origin of death and the origin of all diseases. Very interesting. That's where it comes from. That's why before Adam's sin, he could live forever. He couldn't get a disease, you see, because you couldn't block the spheres of whatever part of the body he had. Because remember, each one corresponds to some area of the body. He couldn't block it, right? So why would he die, right? He wouldn't die, he wouldn't get any disease. But once you introduce the Zoyamah of the Satan, and the world now became a combination of Geshem, physicality, and Zoyamah, or Satan, right? You now could block the light of the spheres. So that was the first devastation. So he now became subject to death. And that's what the Baruch told him. On the day that you eat it, you will die. Because you will now have the ability, since you mingled now with another existence, you now have the ability to block, right, the sphere, the light or the energy of that sphere that corresponds to your sin. You see? And guess what? The body part that now corresponds to that sin is going to what? Is going to wilt and die. This is true medicine. You see? This is what a Kabbalistic doctor would do. That's how he cures disease. It's a whole different it's a whole different paradigm of what a disease is. Just like they discovered, nobody knew what disease was. They thought it was all kinds of fluids, air, fire, water, whatever, and then they realized it's pathogens. It's either viruses. In fact, the word virus is averos, sins. It's funny that they picked that word for virus, avira, right? An avera is a sin, right? So that's infectious diseases, or it's what's called degenerative, like cancer, heart attack. It's one of those two, where the body ceases to function because it's not functioning correctly, and so on. But that can only come, so that was the second paradigm, that it's not the ancient way of looking at it, where you're not having enough fluids or whatever, the bile, whatever these guys thought up, Finally, they understood the theory of germs, Louis Pasteur, right? But the real origin of disease is none of that. It's the avera. Of course, anybody listening to this shir would say, what kind of witchcraft is this? What kind of witch doctor are we talking about? Were they going to sing about, the incantations and all that? No, that's really what goes on. Our problem is we don't have any clue as to which spheres are connected to which averas, right? And which organ is connected to which averas. We don't know. You see, you have to be a very great makubal, kabbalist, to know that. And there were people who knew that. And they would tell you, you got this disease. Wait a minute. You got high sugar. You got diabetes. So this is the avera that lies on your neshama that is blocking this particular aspect of the sphera. So therefore what you have to do is do tshuva on that avera, right? And then do the mitzvah. And guess what? Your diabetes will disappear. You see? The problem is nobody really knows what's connected to what. You see? I don't think the AMA will ever certify this kind of doctor. But I'm telling you what the real origin of disease is. Once you understand the origin of the whole structure of a human and how it connects to the spheres and the mitzvahs and so on, then you know exactly what is going on, you see. But in any case, so this is a very, very important, obviously. It's a fundamental aspect of the human being and what he is, you see. But that's what you really, in order to do that, you really have to know, you see. So, but what's also interesting is not only Adam Harishon by his sin now blocked the aura of the spheres, and since the sphera was connected to that mitzvah, right, and was being blocked by the zoyama that he created, right, it blocked it, and all of a sudden he became physical, really physical, the way we are, and therefore he was subject to death. That's number one. The second problem, which never happened before, you see, is that it's not only that the zoyama of the Satan, of that world, it's called the klipa, the tumah, could block the sphera, you see, and therefore block the area of the neshama, which would automatically block the area of the body and subject it to vulnerability of all kinds of deficiencies, which is called disease, right? The Satan can be yoinek from the kedusha of that sphera. See, this was the second blow that Adam did. So it's not only that he blocked the sphera, no. The Satan can now divert the ore of the sphera from the neshama, which would block it from the guf, and actually turn it to himself. So he himself can enliven or invigorate himself and grow in might. That's a second tragedy that happened. It's called the Yanika, where the Satan is able to yoinek. The Satan is able to nourish from the sphera, right, the area of the sin that this person would have gotten had he done the mitzvah. Instead he sinned, blocked that light, and that light or energy now goes to the Satan that energizes him.